And think about it. A debt ceiling is like giving your child a credit card, and they charge the limit all the way up. Would you just raise the limit? $31 trillion of debt. The CBO has come out in the next 10 years. Do you know we'll pay 10.5?
You did it three times in the Trump administration.
Did Kev think he was on Fox News or something where he could just spew misinformation freely and nobody would push back? Republican Speaker of the House was at the New York Stock Exchange today where he was going around complaining about the debt ceiling. You know that thing he didn't complain about when Republicans raised it 3 times under Donald Trump and he signed off on it. But now, well, he's up in arms over it. Not to mention that very same deficit was spiked more than $2 trillion under Donald Trump when he decided to offer tax breaks to his mates and the 1%. But while these are the things Kevin McCarthy conveniently forgot about, CNBC host Sara Eisen was on hand to remind him, and it didn't go well for Kev.
There's an appropriations committee and a budget for all of this. The fiscal year ends at the end of September. Why not deal with spending cuts and negotiate with the president there? Why negotiate over the debt ceiling, which is much more dangerous?
It's not dangerous at all, especially when you sit down on February 1st. And remember, the budget is different than a debt ceiling. A budget resolution is not like in a state capitol. The budget never even goes to the president. So for the president to say do a budget, that makes no sense. What you want to do is sit down with a debt ceiling, just as America has done. Watch. When President Biden was a senator, 4 times he voted to increase the debt ceiling only if it included fiscal changes. The times he voted against the debt ceiling is because he said there wasn't enough fiscal economic change. And think about it. A debt ceiling is like giving your child a credit card, and they charge the limit all the way up. Would you just raise the limit? No, you would sit down.
Well, if it meant playing with America's standing at full faith and credit of U.S. government debt, I feel like you can deal with the spending in other ways, which is totally legitimate.
So if you just raise the debt ceiling, do you think $31 trillion of debt? The CBO has come out in the next 10 years. Do you know we'll pay 10.5?
You did it 3 times in the Trump administration.
As we did economic changes. We never raised the debt ceiling by itself.
But the tax cuts, that was like $2 trillion deficit.
And you know how much we're bringing in revenue? On average, in the 50-year average in America, you bring 17% of GDP. Today, we're bringing 20. That's the only 2 other times in modern history in America have you ever brought 20% of GDP. That's because the tax cuts actually created economy to grow and brought more revenue into the economy. But the problem is not about how much money we're bringing in, where the president just wants to raise more taxes. It's our spending. On 50-year average, we normally only spend 21% of GDP. Right now, we're spending 23.6 on our way to 25. So if you don't tackle the spending problem, you're never. And if you ignore this problem and you just raise the debt ceiling, our debt is now $31 trillion. It's bigger than our entire economy by 20%. You're at a tipping point. So all you're going to do is cause more inflation. Infrastructure.
I'm not suggesting we don't do anything about that. I'm just suggesting there's a time and place for it.
And the time,
this is a technical.
The time and place is right now, just as we've watched every time before. I didn't wait till the last moment.
And his dismay continued when he presented this groundbreaking idea.
Our proposal will also restore work requirements that ensure able-bodied adults without dependents earn a paycheck and learn new skills. That will grow our economy and help the supply chain. Right now, there are more job openings than people who are looking for jobs. You know why? It's in part because the Biden administration weakened work requirements. Incentives matter. And the incentives today are out of whack. It's time to get Americans back to work.
Single best day of economic numbers in literally 50 years. The unemployment rate has not been this low. In other words, the employment rate has not been this high since Americans were seeing things like this on TV.
Hi, this is Dick Clark, and it's time now for American Bandstand.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
That unemployment has fallen this far, under 4 points, to 3.4% in this Biden era. That's the state of jobs 2 years into President Biden's agenda, and he is, as any president would do, we've heard this before, but he is taking a lot of credit for this and saying it has to do with some of the sacrifices and choices he and the Congress has made. Now, nothing is perfect in the equation. Inflation is high. There are signs, though, that it's easing, and Wall Street and other indicators show some enthusiasm. It's a powerful story here. It also cuts against what we've heard from some economists and politicos about this current era we're living through, or what was coming down the pike.
Well, here's a thought, mate. Why didn't you spend less time complaining about the very thing you signed off on 3 times and spend more time working on that budget proposal that never was? Yeah, nobody's ever seen it. Maybe it's stored in the same cabinet that Republicans' healthcare plan was placed 4 years ago.
The best part of waking up? MAGA tears in my cup. Check out the new MAGA tears mug, available now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com. It's 100% union made right here in the USA. I know I'm not tired of winning yet. How about you? Get yours today.